Okay. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where another be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I am your host, Tom Grossi, and the first round in the 2019 NFL Draft is in the books. And a big shout out and thank you to all of those who attended the live stream. We had a ton of you in there. It was a ton of fun. We'll be back there tomorrow at 7 p.m. Also, a big shout out and thank you to all my members over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy for the continued support. If you would like to support me and get some cool rewards, check that out. But the Green Bay Packers, they did not trade back. Instead, with the number 12 pick, they picked Rashan Gary, the defensive end out of Michigan. Now, if you're already familiar with this channel, I did a whole breakdown about Rashan Gary earlier that I could link down in the description. And the title of that video was, Why is Rashan Gary's stats not higher? And so I'll do a little bit of a recap of that video. We'll take a look at his stats, and I'll kind of give you my overall feelings on the pick. So when the Packers were looking at this, because they had a bunch of options at 12, right? They had Montez Sweat, who wound up falling into the 20s to the Redskins, who were trying to trade back up to get him. Juwan Taylor, who shockingly did not even get drafted in the first round. There was a few guys that they could have picked, and they went with Rashan Gary. And I can see why they did, but I think the immediate reaction I had is it's a very risky pick, and we're not picking him based off of his previous performance and his previous experience. We're picking him solely on his potential and what he could bring the Green Bay Packers and what kind of player he could be. So right off the bat, guy is 6'4", 277 pounds, and is a monster, right? But at the combine, and he's played D lineman. At the combine, he was the fastest D lineman, running a 4.58 40-yard dash, doing 26 reps, a 7.25 3-cone. And so, obviously had a very good combine. The kind of player that he is he's a bull rusher. He doesn't have a whole lot of technique. He completely relies on his size and his speed. So his measurables are fantastic and are absolutely everything that you want in a defensive lineman. He's most likely going to be put to the side, right, as a defensive end, or we could potentially stand him up and play him as an outside linebacker. The one of the things that I realized immediately is the versatility that this guy has, and that Pettine is going to be moving him around a whole lot. And since Pettine doesn't like to be put in those kind of traditional schemes, right? He's not just going to call a random 3-4 defense. He's going to be moving guys around. I think Gary will fit that defense very well. But considering all of his tangibles, considering all his measurables, let's take a look at his stats. So in 2016, he played 12 games, only had 12 solo tackles, 5 for a loss, and then a half a sack. 2017, played 13 games, 25 solo tackles, 11.5 for a loss, so that was great. 5.5 sacks, so that improved, and a forced fumble. So 2017 was obviously his best year. And then in 2018, only played 9 games because he had an injury, 20 solo tackles, 6.5 for a loss, and only 3.5 sacks. Now, where he traditionally lines up is he lines up wide and he explodes off the snap. And what I took note as is, and again, I broke this down in the other video and actually breaking down his tape, he tends to get pushed to the outside a lot. It's usually that big burst of speed. And if he doesn't get to the quarterback, if he doesn't get around the offensive tackle, then essentially he's done because he's going to get pushed too far to the outside. Now, another cause of concern was he has a shoulder injury. It was reported this week that it was a labral tear and that it could potentially need surgery after the season and need to be managed in 2019. He also was interviewed right after he got picked saying that his shoulder was at 110% and that it was good. I don't really know who to believe there. But he's also, again, he's had experience playing as a defensive lineman, as a defensive end, and like I said, Pettine's going to move him around a lot. And so I think the overall reaction I have is that I personally like Montez Sweat better. And I know that he had the heart issue and then it was misdiagnosed and whatever. I don't really even care about that. What I care about is it kind of just falls with whatever ideology you believe in. Are you drafting a guy who has all of this potential but hasn't shown it in the past? Or are you drafting a guy who has all of that experience, who has basically shown to you on tape, hey, this is the kind of football player that I am, and I'm going to bring this from college into the NFL. And obviously there's a transition period, right? Like you can have guys who could be awful in college and can light it. It could be undrafted guys and light it up in the NFL. Or you can have guys like a Jamarcus Russell, right? Had a great tape in college and obviously not a great quarterback. So it could go either way, and it's kind of like a catch-22. For me personally, I think that this is just a very risky pick for the Packers, considering the injury, considering this, he doesn't really have the stats or the film to really back it up. It's more of, this is a really one-of-a-kind athlete that hopefully the Packers can kind of get that potential out of him. And listen, Rashan Gary was very emotional when he was getting the phone call, and as a human being and as a Packers fan, I really appreciated that. And he seems like a kind of a good guy. He seems like the kind of person you would want in the locker room, the guy who's going to kind of give you 110%. And I love absolutely everything about that. I think just from a more conservative standpoint of like, at 12, I want to get like proven players. I think I would have actually chosen a Sweat or potentially an offensive lineman just to kind of, again, go with something that's a little bit more safe. But, you know, Goody's, he's shown that he is not Ted Thompson, right? He is willing to be more aggressive. And I think that this is like the perfect pick for him. And it's very representative of the kind of direction he's going to be bringing the Packers in. And hey, like this ain't your papa's Packers anymore. Like we are going to go aggressive. We are going to go high risk, high reward. And Rashan Gary might turn out to be an amazing player. And obviously as a Packers fan, I hope he turns out to be an amazing player. I hope that what he did in college, and a lot of people had a lot of hopes for him, I hope that disappointment doesn't, or that unfulfillment doesn't carry over into the NFL, and it doesn't turn into like another Nick Perry or a Dayton Jones, etc. But I trust Goot. I'm just not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous about this, but this does open up a bunch of different possibilities. Our defensive line is awesome now, right? So we have Preston Smith, we have Zadarius Smith, we also have Kenny Clark. Now we have Rashan Gary. Who knows, we might bring Muhammad Wilkerson back. And again, these guys are going to be moved around. I would not be surprised if he gets stood up a bunch of times. He could eventually replace Mike Daniels, right? Because his contract is going to be up after this season, so we can put him down as a defensive end. There's a lot of possibilities, and I'm excited about those possibilities. I'm excited for the Packers defense, and I think that this guy is going to fit well into it. He has all the potential in the world. The Packers just need to utilize it. But let me know what you think about the pick down in the comments below. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com, TomGrossi Comedy, at TomGrossiComedy on all the social media you see below. Check it out. Packcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, and of course here on YouTube multiple times per week. You can check out all the prospect videos that I did in the past 5 weeks leading up to the draft, including the one on Rashan Gary. We'll also be back for the second and third round of the NFL draft at 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi, and as always, go Pack Go.